Alrighty, folks, you know it and I know it. The housing market is broken. The spring selling season is dead. But you know what? April's over. It's time to look at April and just see how bad it was. Do the actual results meet the narrative? Or is this something like consumer sentiment is bad, but they keep spending? We're going to talk about April for King County, AKA Seattle. We're the supply, price, and of course, pending. So we're going to get all the data from the one and only Beth Traversa. How you doing, Beth?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back. And so, is it doom and gloom? Is the market crashing in the greater Seattle area? Well, not in April, at least.
Not yet.
Is it different? Yes, it's different. There's some things that are interesting. So first of all, our total active inventory in King County, which is the greater Seattle area, is 3,000. And last year it was 1,610. So that's a significant uptick in active inventory. Right. Almost, we're getting close to double there.
Yeah, so active inventory is up 85%-ish.
Oh, for yes. Sure. And then months of supply almost doubled as well to 1.7 months of supply. So we're still really low in months of supply, but last year it was 0.9. So
yeah, again, if you want to go on a percentage basis, you could come out and say and be technically correct. Months of supply is up 100% or almost 100%.
Yes, and one could say that there's a catastrophic change and flood of inventory and all these things, and that would all be true. But at the same time, our median sale price is also up 4.2% year over year.
How can that be, Beth? How can median home price be up when inventory is nearly double and median months of supply is nearly double?
There's a couple reasons. So the sales are actually a little bit higher this year than they were last year. So some of that extra inventory is moving down the line. So what we're seeing is more listings coming on the market. And for myself as a listing agent, I've got a ton of listings coming on the market, which I've been seeing. It's not just me, across the board, we're seeing a lot of agents are working really hard to get their inventory on the market. And the interesting thing is it's later this year than it was in previous years.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because I'm actually seeing this across the country. I talk to dozens of agents across the country each and every week. And it's clear in the data that inventory is up. But what I'm hearing from more and more folks like yourself that you just dropped is there's even more coming, right? There is more and more sellers. So I'm wondering what this means. Do we just have a bunch of sellers who are late in life and this is the time to get out? Do we have financial stress and the only equity or cash they have is the house and they're going to sell and rent? Why are people choosing to sell now? It seems odd that they would be selling in your market. The spring selling season's almost over. It ends on Mother's Day. What's going on? I mean, are people in financial binds and they're just going to raise cash and go hunker down, or are they moving? What is all this new supply coming from?
Yeah, so they're not in financial distress. The ones that I've been talking to, they started this plan a long time ago, and it just happened to come to be around now. So for whatever reason, they're moving plans. Most of them are moving out of state is the typical scenario I get. And then, of course, there's estate sales and things like that where that just happens when it goes through the legal process, and it is what it is. But most are using their equity to purchase somewhere else because of life plans that they've made. We're not seeing them move up or even necessarily downsizing sellers, buyer sellers. We're not seeing that because it still costs more. You're not decreasing your overhead to downsize when the rates are higher.
Right.
If they have a low rate on their current home. So what I'm seeing is that we're seeing everything is pushing out a little further. April was a bizarre month, and because all that happened early in the month with all the tariff news and the stock market and everyone pulling back because they didn't know what to do. And the sales data that we're looking at today doesn't reflect all of that because a lot of those sales are still pending. So
True.
And so I think a lot of what happened in the we're going to see a lot that's going to roll out in the May numbers. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that. And also we're seeing more inventory coming on in May. We might start to see that start to pull away a little bit with more inventory in May. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what we end up seeing.
Yeah, so I have so many questions because, again, you and I talking each and every week, and we appreciate it. First and foremost, last week, you kind of highlighted again that all active inventory is not created equal. What do I mean by that? You were still highlighting the fact that move-in or first entry-level housing kind of below the median was still kind of the unicorn and still moving rather quickly. Where you were seeing the differences were above the median and specifically 2x the median, more options, more choices, more days on market. So some of this active inventory is a mirage, right? If you just look at the fact that Seattle's inventory is up, I'll just say double. It's just not all created equal. It's definitely skewed to the higher end. Is that still true?
Still true. Yeah. We're seeing more at the higher end that's not moving down the line as quickly. Right. More listings than I've seen in a long time at that luxury level, and not that many sales. I mean, it all depends on where it is, et cetera, but sure. And what it is. But we are seeing more of that. And for example, we have we're reviewing offers on 2 of our listings today that we launched last week. Both of them were below the median, and both appear to be having multiple offers. The lower price one got 5 offers, and it was a bit of a fixer. And it's just, everybody likes that and wants to get into the area, and this is their opportunity. So those are still moving. That's been nonstop revolving door over there. So we're still seeing that, and the other one has had really good activity as well. But the key is we've been coaching our sellers that they were priced appropriately for the market, not pushing the market, because if you try to go on the high end of that, whatever price tier that is for your comparable sales, you could languish on the market and then have to do some price reductions. It's not like if you just wait longer, the higher offer will come. It doesn't work that way. The longer you're on the market, typically the lower the ultimate price is. Well, look at you and what you look for. If something's longer market time, we come in with the lower offers and ascertain how motivated somebody is. But what we're trying to do is stay ahead of it. Mm-hmm. And the ones that are prepped really well and priced really well are selling quickly. Yeah. The ones that are not are sitting around and not moving. And those are your opportunities.
This is why headline numbers, scary stats are so dangerous. Because again, we have a broken housing market. The story hasn't changed for 3 years. We're seeing even more distortion below the median versus above. We're seeing the inventory stack up above. We're going to see days on market and months of supply grow, but people are missing the point. In a broken housing market, it's above the median that languishes. And let's be very, very clear. If you are lucky enough to be shopping for a luxury home today, if that's something you can financially pull, I would be writing disrespectful offers. Let's just give an example.
Absolutely.
Let's say you were lucky enough to be shopping for a $3 million home. Like that's your ceiling. I would only be looking at properties listed at $4 million and above. Because again, I talked to Adrian the other day about Orange County, and in his market, much like King County, about $1 million's the median. In his market, anything that's $2.5 million and above, days on market is 300 days.
Wow.
300. So I know with certainty, if I'm writing offers on properties that are 3.5, 3.8, 4 million, eventually I'm going to find somebody who's richy rich and just needs this headache gone and will take a lower number. That's what I'd be doing today.
Yeah. And it just depends, like, is that seller the one that, because $4 million house is when you're going to want to live in yourself, most likely, right? So,
well, I don't know.
I mean, be the one too. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. For certainly if you're the buyer, right? The other thing I think about these luxury buyers is most of them have more than one home.
Yeah.
So they're not as motivated as an entry-level house, right? They're willing to wait a year and a half, 2 years to get a great deal. So again, I think the housing market is really giving a lot of head fakes. I think most people are missing it. But The other thing, and I think Redfin got this right, I think what we're seeing for the first time in much of the country, not all, but much, is a buyer strike. I think the uncertainty from tariffs, the threats of layoffs, the thoughts of recession is just too much. And we're seeing a buyer strike right when, to your point, more supply is coming. So
It's
all I got to
interesting
say,
that those two lines kind of converged.
yep.
I have to
Yeah.
say, it feels like this week there's been more buyers coming out from wherever they were hiding. Just because I'm seeing increased showings, etc. But also at the same time, a lot of sellers have done price corrections too. So to adjust for that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's starting to bring more of them out. But that said, there are some that are just going to wait this thing out, whatever that means, you know, especially if they're not particularly motivated or need to buy a house. So there's always going to be those folks that need to buy. And they, I mean, technically nobody has to buy. They can always rent or whatever. But like people that want to get into a home before summer start in our market, when the weather gets nice and school is out, people are gone. They're traveling, they're out enjoying the great Northwest and all of that. So people
it's really interesting
before then.
Yeah. So last week or the week before, we recorded a show talking about the negative wealth effect and the fact that buyers who were very over allocated to tech stocks, either via investments or employment, they were pulling back because their stuff was down 20, 25, 30%. A lot of that had bounced back. So it's not surprising to me that some of those buyers come back, because what I've seen historically is, let's say you work for a tech company, you're shopping for a home, your stock tanks 30%, and then it comes back, 25% of that. Most of the time people get more aggressive to buy a home because they now see all of this stock wealth, this paper wealth, as risky. So they want to exit that and go buy a home. So it doesn't surprise me that you saw an uptick from buyers, because the stocks are better and they want to get out.
Yeah. And it's interesting, kind of that middle, and it's every different community. Every community has its own dynamic going on, but in some of them around here, I'm seeing kind of that middle tier languishing a bit more than I would have thought. Some houses that were priced really well that would have sold maybe even over list price a couple of months ago, just hanging out waiting. And that, I think, is some real opportunity there, because if you see a cluster of them where they're all kind of competing against each other in a certain community, one of those sellers is going to be a little more motivated than the other. If they have another house they're trying to buy, most of the time it is something where they've got another house, whether it's contingent on this one selling or not can vary, but people don't want to juggle two payments, and they'll come around, and somebody's going to want to take your offer to keep things going. So
so I'm more convinced ever that 2025 for much of the country is going to be the year of the investor. Again, we're seeing more and more properties on the market, aka more supply. We are seeing less demand, which means motivated sellers will start to rise to the top, and you can do creative offers. If you happen to be shopping for luxury, you're in great luck, because there's probably been never a better time to buy a luxury property than the next 3 to 6 months. As for the Crash Bros calling for home prices to correct, better luck in May. We will come back and check that in a month or so. But again, inventory is up. It is unquestionable, but all inventory is not created equal. And even in the great state of Washington, aka King County, Seattle, prices are still up, even though inventory is exploding. Beth, any closing thoughts and where people can find you?
Yeah. So I would say, again, it's on that note, like 1.7 months of inventory is still not a lot, Still
not a lot.
We're happy to have a few more houses to choose from, is how it feels with the boots on the ground. But yeah, that said, I'm really curious to see how May plays out. We might see a little bit of a bump, going a little later season bump, because April was so chaotic.
Maybe.
But I'm watching it, and I look forward to reporting back here and letting everybody know. So I can be found at bethtraversogroup.com, or you Google my name and I'm everywhere. And I am in the school group too, if people want to chat there. So I love connecting with the ORAT community.
Yeah, folks, if obviously if you're buying or selling in King County, you've got to work with Beth Traverso, but she does one better for you. If you are shopping or buying anywhere else in the country, you can reach out to her. She will trust her Rolodex and find you another top 1% agent. So please look her up, ask for referrals. She is amazing. And thank you for being a part of school. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.